Hi, scientists. Mr. Kennedy here. Good day to you all. So, today we are going to be learning about climatic zones. And before we get into that, I just want to do a quick recap about latitude. I know we've touched on this before, and we said that the major line of latitude is the equator, causing the Earth into northern and southern hemisphere. And you see that from the diagram in front of you, that from the equator up towards the North Pole, the numbers of latitude increases in degrees. Similarly, from the equator to the South Pole, the latitude numbers also increases, which means as you go up, the degrees of the latitude increases as well. I just want you guys to grab that concept because we're going to be using that as we move on. Now, also recall that when we discuss about Earth seasons, we said that as the Earth revolves around the Sun, at some point the Sun is overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn, or it is overhead at the equator during any of the equinoxes, or it is overhead at the Tropic of Cancer during summer for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. So in a nutshell, it is that the Sun is either at the equator twice a year, or at the Tropic of Capricorn, or at the Tropic of Cancer. So the Sun is always within around the equator or around the Tropic of Cancer or Capricorn. So because of that, you will see we can conclude, or we can simplify that diagram into that solid diagram like what we have on our screen right now. So if this is the equator right at the middle, cutting the Earth into northern and southern hemisphere, the Sun is always directly with so much intensity on the equator or on the Tropic of Cancer or on the Tropic of Capricorn. So because of that, there is so much light intensity, so much heat intensity around the equator. And as you move from the equator towards the North Pole or towards the South Pole, the amount of intensity or the amount of sunlight or the amounts of heat decreases. And that is why at the pole, we have frozen grounds, or we have the glaciers or the ice in the polar region. Same thing applies to the southern pole as well. The amount of light, amount of heat decreases as you move away from the equator towards the pole. What that simply means is, using the concept of latitude that we just talked about, as the number of latitude increases from the equator, remember the equator is 0 degrees. So as we move from the equator 0 degrees towards 20 degree, 40 degree, 80 degrees, all the way to 90 degrees, which is the North Pole, the amount of heat, the amount of light intensity, all decreases as you move towards the pole. So because of this variation of the amount of light and heat, this causes different climatic zones that we are going to be looking at today. So in front of you, we have the equator right here. And because this region here, we have the Tropic of Cancer here and the Tropic of Capricorn. So we said the Sun is either overhead at the equator or within this region. So because of this phenomenon, we can call this place where the Sun is always so much on, so focused on, we can call this region the tropics or the tropical zone. Now, because this area is also close to the equator, some people also name this area the equatorial zone, which means they are right around the equator. So because there is so much heat and so much light intensity in this region, temperatures all around these regions or around these countries or around this part of the world, temperatures are high all throughout the year, because whether it is summer, winter, regardless the position of the Earth around the Sun is always radiating energy towards this part of the Earth. So temperatures are high all year round in terms of temperature for the tropical zone or the equatorial zone. So because of this high temperature, some scientists named this zone the torrid zone because it has high temperature. So if it has high temperature, what do you think would happen to evaporation from the ocean, from the land, from the leaves, from the land surface? Because of this high temperature, what do you think is going to happen to evaporation? Is it going to be more or is it going to be less? If your guess is as good as mine, it's going to be more evaporation. So because light, there's so much heat, there is increase in evaporation. If there is increase in evaporation, there is increase in cloud formation. And if there's increase in cloud formation, then there is increase in precipitation, the amount of water that falls back to the earth. Precipitation could be rain, precipitation could be snow, or any other form, anything that falls from the sky in the form of water, whether it is ice or whether it is water or whether it's whatever form. So there's high precipitation in this tropical zone, equatorial zone, torrid zone. Okay, so because there is high evaporation, we say this region also has a high humidity. Now, humidity simply means, for those of you who have done your assignment about weather, humidity simply means the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, the amount of water vapor in the air. Okay, so high heat leads to high evaporation. High evaporation means there's high vapor in the air, which means high humidity, and high humidity means high cloud formation and then high precipitation of rain. So these are the characteristics of this tropical equatorial torrid zone. And because of this high temperature and high rain, the forests here are usually very thick with thick undergrowth beneath the forest trees. So for this reason, the forests in this region are referred to as the rain forest. And that is it for the tropical zone. So next we're going to go to the other extreme, which is the region around the poles. So because they are around the poles, we call them polar region, because they are close to the poles. Polar region. Again, these polar regions, they are the direct opposite of the equatorial region or the tropical regions. Now, these regions, remember, at some point they are tilted completely away from the sun or tilted towards the sun. So during the region where they are tilted away from the sun, the water, everything there gets frozen. So because temperatures are low, because the sun is not always, remember, as you move away from the equator towards the pole, the amount of heat decreases as well. So because of this decrease, there's not enough heat there. Because there's not enough heat, the areas in that region gets frozen. So because of that constant freezing of water and glaciers, some scientists call this region the frigid region. Okay, so if there is no high intensity of light or no high intensity of heat, what do you think is going to happen to evaporation? Evaporation would be low because there's not enough heat getting there. In fact, at some point, it's tilted away completely from the sun. So if there is low evaporation, that means humidity will be what? Humidity will be low as well, which means there is low water vapor in the atmosphere. So it is usually dry around that region. Scientifically speaking, or by going by definition, these polar regions, they are actually deserts. It's just that they are ice or frozen deserts, which means there's no water there at all other than the ice. The water that is there is frozen. So what are you going to do with the frozen water? So they are typically deserts that are frozen. Okay, so these polar regions, they are low humidity, they are dry. So because of the lack of evaporation, low humidity, precipitation is very low as well. There is no form of precipitation there at all. Very low precipitation. Okay, and then the forests in this region also are very scanty, and they are just long pines just growing up, unlike the rainforest. And that leaves us with our last zone, which is the zone around here and here. And we refer to this zone as temperate zones. As the name implies, they are temperamental. They are not exactly this, they are not exactly that. They fall within a range. They are a mixture of the tropical and a mixture of the polar as well. So you can call them bipolar if you wish, because they are confused. So because of this reason, this region have 4 seasons. You have the spring, the autumn, the winter, and the summer. So, and these seasons pick on different characteristics from the tropics or different characteristics from the pole. Some seasons are cold, just like the pole. Some seasons are hot, just like the tropical region. And precipitation is intermediate, is temperate, is moderate, meaning it's not as high as the tropical region, and it's not as low as the polar region. So you get the point. Think about it like in the color wheel, when you have yellow and you have blue. So because there's yellow and there is blue, then in between should be green, because when you mix yellow and blue together, you should get green. You get the logic? So that's what temperate regions are. They are a mixture of the pole and a mixture of the tropical. So you have 4 seasons in that region. Humidity is moderate. Rainfall or precipitation, whether snow or water, is moderate. Evaporation is moderate. Humidity is moderate. Everything is moderate. And the kind of forest you find in these regions, they are referred to as the temperate forest. For that reason as well. And those are the 3 major climatic zones in the world and their characteristics. So at the end of the day, this is what we have: the tropical zone around here, and the temperate zone, and lastly the polar zone, with their various defining characteristics in terms of temperature, precipitation, evaporation, humidity, and forest. All right, thank you, and I'll see you all outside.